All right, so the final reader tonight is Peter Davis. And I feel like Kyle mentioned earlier, this is a really heavily loaded Ball State list, which I'm fine with. It's my alma mater. And Peter was one of my professors there. He was my professor for a poetry class. And I think I don't know if I've ever told him this, or I hope that he doesn't even take offense to it, but I always, so probably haven't. But I always kind of saw him as like Michael J. Fox. So like, I don't know if people have ever mentioned that you kind of like him, but if I'm the first, awesome. And I always appreciated that. Yeah, it was actually one of the classes where I was like always wanting to go, because he said things like, "Poetry's not it's not supposed to be a fucking riddle, man." And during my tenure at Ball State, I worked on my Peter Davis impression a little more than so here's Peter Davis reading some poetry for you guys.
Being here and read some poems. I thought I'd read a few poems from my first book, Hitler's Mustache, which is a book of poems about Hitler's mustache. And, I don't have any available, but they're available online. Man, you should get on there and buy one. So I'll read a couple of those, and then well, we'll just see how it goes. This is called, all of the poems in Hitler's Mustache are entitled Hitler's Mustache : something. In this case, it's Hitler's Mustache, the short story, because it's a book of poems. Important arrangements were to be made. The party would not plan itself. She sat on her square black sofa, dreaming about the decorations and imagining the caterer and even some of the clothes her guest might be wearing. It made her happy to think like this. But soon enough, her grand hopes began to settle like soft snow on the warm floor of the situation. She didn't have much money. A would never get behind her on this. Her sister-in-law would drink too much and break her black square heel and throw her purse in the swimming pool and fall asleep in the lawn chair. There were bills that needed to be paid now. If only she had never met Mustache. If only he hadn't mustached her aunt in a furnace or breaded her over an open mustache. That evening, while her husband and children ate the food she had carefully mustached for them, she got an idea. Perhaps she thought if I were to mistake something for Mustache, it seemed perfect. It covered all the angles. A would get behind her because he needed that mustache. Her sister-in-law would take care of the bills. The cold snow began to melt. As a metaphor for her mood, the cold snow no longer made any sense and began to drift upward, out of the story, out of the poem, existing only in the past, and another time, one that seemed much bleaker. The next morning, she packed the children's lunches and pressed A's shirt for him. After the kids were on the bus and A kissed her cheek and drove the Volkswagen down the long driveway, she fed the mustache and packed her baggage. She called the mustache. She put a note on the door for the mustache and left, making sure she left the mustache slightly cracked so the mustache would be able to mustache the mustache. The day was hot, and by the time she reached the airport, she was sweating through her shirt. She fanned herself with a mustache and nervously surveyed the situation. There were 2 guards near the mustache. Each mustache looked like it held a mustache. She ordered a cup of mustache from the mustache who worked behind the mustache. The mustache knew she couldn't mustache about this forever. She'd have to make up her mind. Mustache. She studied the mustache. She thought about all of the mustache in her mustache. All of the mustache. All of the mustache and mustache and mustache and mustache. She thought about all of the mustaches in her mustache were put in mustache. She took one more mustache of mustache. She mustached. She mustached. The mustache of her mustache. She mustached. Thank you very much. This is called Hitler's mustache, Russell Mustache Edson. And unlike Jill, I won't watch out for Cal's parents' feelings. I'm sorry about that. I apologize in advance.
I feel so much better.
Let's do the weekend at your house.
Okay. The mustache walks into the room. The father shrieks, "I will not be invaded by a consolidated group of face hairs." The mother shrieks, "We're already invaded. What will you do about it?" The father screams, "Invaded? What do you mean to tell me, you infernal flea-ridden witch?" The consolidated group of facial hairs begins throwing a fit. The father squeals, "I will not stand for this insubordination. I am not cattle. I am not to be milked or flung across the barbecue grill." The consolidated facial hairs yell, "We aren't consolidated at all. We are all individuals all joined together in the common cause of being unconsolidated." The baby, who just now has emerged from the anus of the father, shrieks, "I am not a baby. What do you mean by this birthing anus?" The father yells, "Mother, why does this baby emerge from my defecation hose? I am looking for an answer." The mother shrieks, "I am less concerned with your defecation hose and more concerned with what sort of mustache this is." This is, I'll read one more from this and then I'll read something else. This is Hitler's mustache, Frank Mustache O'Hara. It is 3:02 p.m. and I sit down to write a poem because I have a few minutes and I can see two women walking down my street and one is wearing yellow, which clashes with the image I have in my mind, and there's not much time because I can hear my son waking up, so I mustn't spend any more time on the women in the street because that's not what this poem is about anyway, nor is it about my dog who just now shuffles her doleful head in the sunlight, which is bright for a bright Saturday afternoon in February. Right after Valentine's Day, when you brought me those chocolate-covered fortune cookies, and that was sweet of you because I love chocolate, and I brought you a new pair of shoes which were pink and a size too big, so we took them back to the store and exchanged them, except they didn't have your size in stock, and they had to ship them to us, which they did a few days ago, and they fit you good now, and that's excellent because you're so cute, and so are they, and together, my goodness, well, I don't even really know what to say except really, really terrific. And anyway, I wasn't going to write about all of that in this poem about love and your pink shoes and fortune cookies, but that's what happened anyway. I mean, you just do the best you can and you see how it goes, and it's 3:13 now, and if you end up with your pink shoes on or naked in my bed, it's no matter to me as long as you're willing to show me what's extra, very new. Mustache. I'm going to read a couple of poems that are from a manuscript, not that you care. I mean, no, whenever it's like, they're from this manuscript. Yeah, we don't know your manuscript. Keep your manuscript to yourself. This is called skateboarding. I skate for me and my homeboys. We grind and carve. Let's skate. We yell that shit, Tina. We fucking yell it. We're behind the grocery store, Tina, shredding this curb, and John Law comes up and is like, "Scram, fuckers." And I'm adjusting my beret. And Tina, my skate Betty, I know you love me, but I can't even explain how much I will skate or die. This is called Seriously, Tina. It's a football game, and it's important that one team beats the other team. I don't care whether you understand. Get over yourself, Tina. All these years with your fucking friends and your exaggerated sense of self, I don't know how your Schwan man tolerated you. I've met a ton of record store employees, and you're not even wearing denim. Sure, all of us make errors, but the way you prance around here is ridiculous. Seriously, Tina, grow up. We're all tired of your histrionics. I'll read a couple more of these. This is called Poser. When the snow really falls, one can produce snow forts all gutted from the giant snow piles. If one is not a giant pile of snow, one doesn't have to watch Cocktail on TV. But not doing so would be pretty stupid and pretty immature. Besides, as a biologist, I have obligations to science that don't allow me to change sides. Freedom isn't free, Tina. And then this last one is called Emily Dickinson. She's all like, I like writing, and I'm good at it. She's like, I like white and looking out of windows, and like, I like baking bread and the Bible, and like, I like my alone time. She's like, it's cool. And they're like, I don't know if it's cool. And she's like, it is. And they're like, you're weird. And she's like, no, I'm not. Maybe you're weird. And they're like, no, you're weird. And she's like, am not. And they're like, R2. And she's like, nuh-uh. And they're like, uh-huh. And she's like, whatever. And talk to the hand and whatever. And they're like, whatever. And she's like, whatever. Some poems from Poetry, which is my newest book, which is available. And tonight, I'm a musician as well.
Yeah.
Well, actually, not just tonight. But I have CDs too, and if you buy a book, a free CD.
Oh.
And if you don't buy a book, a CD for $1. Or something like that. So, please do something. All of the poems and poetry begin poem addressing something. This is poem addressing my intentions in this poem and how I feel like I'm doing. It is important to me when considering this poem to do something that's easy, something that doesn't take much time or energy. I say that because this isn't the only poem I need to write. I need to write others too, to increase the possibility of publishing something. On the other hand, it's also important to me that this contains a great truth, something that will make you slow down and really think. I want you to be very impressed with this poem and the thoughts it inspires within you. I would like it to be something I'm proud of both now and in the future. I feel pretty good about it so far, but it's been a little harder to write than I'd hoped. This is a poem addressing one important reason why a life in academia is appealing to me. As a poet, I receive very little validation from the world. It feels good when a poem is published so that someone like you can pick this up and read it. On the other hand, what we're engaged in right here on this page is a relatively rare situation. Poetry has isolated me from the world more than it has connected me to it. My friends never really understood it, and neither did my parents. But a 10-year line teaching position is different. It says to my friends and parents, look, I am an impressive success. It shows everyone around me that I'm not just some weirdo who writes, but that some accredited university or college has hired me potentially for the rest of my career because they think I am an asset to their highly intellectual and vital community and just because they think I'm so fucking great. And that would feel nice. Poem addressing my ambivalence about this poem. I do feel like I have important, beautiful things to say about the world. I just can't think of them at this particular instant. I don't see why you should read this poem and expect to find that sort of thing. Why look for anything in this poem? This seems like a silly place to find something. poem addressing the possibility that you're reading this poem in a literary journal. Good for you. I read some journals too, but the odds of actually finding this poem can't be good. Thanks for making the effort. I hope you feel like it was worth it. Poem addressing people who might hire me for their tenure-line teaching position but are unsure about what they're hearing. No worries. This doesn't change the fact that I'd be a terrific teacher for you and an asset to your community. I'm a trustworthy and dependable colleague. I've been teaching for years as an adjunct. I get excellent student evaluations. This is a poem addressing babies. Isn't this a good poem? Oh yes it is. It's a very good poem. This poem is a very good poem. Oh yes it is. Yes it is. Oh yes it is. What do you think, honey? What are you thinking, baby? Oh baby, sweet baby. Oh, that's a sweet baby. Are you a smiling baby? Yes, you're a smiling baby. Aren't you a cutie? You're such a cutie. My goodness, aren't you a cutie? Isn't this a good poem? Yes it is. Oh yes it is. Whose fat little cheeks are those? Are those your fat little cheeks? Oh, you're a sweetie pie, my little cutie fat cheeks, my little pretty pie. Oh, yes, it is a good poem. Oh, yes, it is a good poem. It's a poem addressing people reading this underwater. This is a strange place for you to be reading a poem. And the odds that you're reading poetry underwater and you come across a poem that is about that situation, fantastic. The universe can be incredible. Just try to take this in a moment. This is really something. I'll just read a couple more, maybe. Well, some of them are really short. How about poem addressing people who are poem addressing teenagers who are new to reading poetry. Seriously, some poetry fucking rocks, like this poem. You see what I mean? I mean, you might be thinking, seriously, dude, I didn't know poetry could be this fucking cool. But it is this fucking cool. It is so fucking cool, motherfuckers. It's better than a movie because most movies suck, and it's better than TV because TV sucks, and fuck yeah, some poems suck, but this one doesn't. It kicks ass, fucking A. I'll read I don't know what I'll do. When you get right down to it, you never really know. I'll read 2 more poems. This is a poem addressing conspiracy theorists. You're right to understand the underlying devious intentions of this poem. You are definitely onto something. You should really examine my other poems too. Just Google me and notice the clues I have left behind. You might want to share what you find with others by starting a blog, informing the media, making videos, etc. I have said to my wife and others that I don't understand how few people notice the prophecy in my work. For reasons that are probably obvious to you, I don't want to directly address what I'm not openly addressing, except to say that, yes, I am addressing what you think I am. I know, it blows my mind too. And then I'll end with a poem addressing people who love heavy metal but don't know anything about poetry. And thank you, Chris, and again, thank you everyone for coming out. That's very nice. Poem addressing people who love heavy metal but don't know anything about poetry. It's interesting that you find yourself here. Important things to remember. You can get stoned to this poem. Bang your fucking head to this poem and raise your fist in the air and rock to this poem. If this poem is too loud, you're too old. And you call yourself hardcore, fucking pussy.